Try your hand at theater mechanics.
Do you want to come fish blasting with me? I'll get grounded for a whole day, but it's way worth it 'cause...
Come, try your hand at theater.
It's already time for us to be at the docks. Let's go! The arrival schedule says ship stopover 1 person. Does that mean we're on...
Greetings, traveler in Paimon. I heard there would be guides for the Iridori.
We didn't expect to see you either! Returning as a guest...
I was a little surprised myself when I received the invitation. But after wandering the outside world for so...
Hazra, when we saw you in the distance just now, you seemed to be looking for...
Ah, yes. You see, when I came off the boat with everyone just now, I could tell they were not footsteps of a regular passenger. But by the time I turned around, even though I didn't manage to catch a glimpse of them, I found...
Oh, does the keeper happen to...
Huh. How... Fascinating. It's almost hard to believe such things could happen. Sure, here it is.
Last time, Aoi no Okina's poem ended with a reference to Aka. The story this time basically says that Akihito got his name from his love of reds. Well, if Paimon were to rate today's story, it sounds pretty unfortunate.
I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this story. I too was once wanted as a
But according to the story, Akihito was exiled by the Shogun because of his... Huh? Traveler, what are you thinking about?
Ah, by the way, you mentioned that your friend Inliwe and Inazuma, there is a saying, that which has been stamped. While sailing at sea, I sometimes carve things to pass the time.
Wow, that's an idea! Quick! Albedo, we figured out a way to help Shincho!
Interesting. A story of the 5 Kasen appeared. Stamped seal, huh? Indeed, it is an efficient solution. If we use a stamp, then Xingqiu won't have to struggle with his handwriting any. Since Xingqiu's signature has been previously revealed to the readers, but I have another idea. Using a seal is a...
Make sure you get in line early.
Yes, that's it, Jinyu. Your writing is greatly improved today, which means yesterday's intent.
My apologies, but I simply can't do it anymore. My hands are so sore that I can't.
You just had a 10-minute break. Come on, you can.
When it comes to pushing a deadline, there's no one more brutal than Mr. Hiri.
No wonder Lady Yai would always send the editorial director to handle troublesome authors.
Whoa, this is getting scary. It hasn't.
Mr. Hiroyama, we found a solution that might... In both Liyue and Inazuma, seals are widely used as the equivalents of a signature. If we use a stamp to leave the author's... Of course, a seal on its own is not enough. So, I propose that first, we'll use a personalized seal. We can simply carve one using Jinyu's signature. In addition, I'll also design a simple but elegant pattern that's easy for Jinyu to write.
Let me think. All right, I think that would work. Not only does it still involve the author...
So, what you mean to say is...
Mr. Hirayama, it suddenly occurred to me that the reason we gave up on live book signings previously was because it would take too long. But if we adopted Calx's proposed method, we might have enough time to do signatures at the live event. And if all the authors signed their books in the same fashion, then Jinyu's signature wouldn't look...
If you think it's feasible, I would certainly be happy to design...
Yes, and you may leave carving the stamp.
In that case, I shall contact the other two authors participating in the new release event.
It is a great honor to use a signature designed by
My pen name is quite complicated and isn't suitable for signing events. However...
Great! Looks like everyone's up.
I'm sorry to have kept you busy for so long, Jinyu. Please, take the next few days to have a good rest. The books that Jinyu already signed can be used as special prizes in future events held by the...
We did it! The event is saved!
Thanks to everyone's efforts, Onodera and I are finally free of that
That's right! You're finally free, Shin...
Welcome to Uyu Restaurant. Please talk to me if you want to.
We still have some time to burn. Where should we...
Traveler, there you are.
Oh, it's Ayaka! And Vent?
I was just going to the festival venue to prepare the Ikebana lesson when I found a strange... This bar just happened to be close by at the time. He informed me that you've also found... But the paper she found isn't quite the same as the ones we've... Here's the paper. Please, have a look.
All the poems we found before were roughly the same length. But this one...
And even though there are only 2 short sentences, neither of them are next to the title. The position of the writing seems to...
If we take the poem literally, it reads, "Dip this paper in water and see the truth naturally appear." Speaking of which, I have an ancient text at home, specializing in ancient and exotic stories.
So, shall we give it a whirl? It just so happens...
Wow, look! It's really working! Let Paimon see what it says. Story says that after Sumizomi got the collection of poems, the plagiarized words in the poem became blurry.
You see, Paimon, in the past, when printing was not yet well developed, handwritten text, to ensure the text lasted longer, they'd either write using a special ink or coat the paper Such special inks are time-consuming and laborious to produce. And however, Since Akihito's poetry collection was an important gift to be presented to the shogun, but as for the plagiarized poems, not only would they lack Akihito's seal, but the words would also react differently when exposed to liquid.
Which means Akihito didn't plagiarize his work?
Yes, it appears that this is the truth that Sumizome's story is Although the story is saddening, I've decided on the subjects to use for Kazuha, Ayaka. Would you be willing to be the
I would be delighted.
Yes, as would I.
There you go. The next 2 portraits should be ready in no...
Yes. And now that all 4 stories have all been collected...
Long ago, Inazuma had 5 legendary poets. People bestowed upon them the title of the 5 Kasen.
One year, the poet Suiko made his way to Tenshukaku and presented the Kasen's work for the shogun's perusal. But a page from the works of Aoi no Okina had been torn out, and Suiko was questioned regarding the matter. Suiko pleaded guilty. He admitted to drinking at the tavern the night before, and vaguely recalled a mysterious figure approaching while he was intoxicated.
That figure was none other than Aoi no Okina himself. This turn of events had begun with an unnamed individual, under whose coercion, Aoi no Okina was forced to take drastic measures to retrieve a page of poetry. He knew nothing of this individual's true intentions. All he knew was that the poem had to do with an old acquaintance, Akihito.
Akihito had once belonged to the 5 Kasen. Each poem he composed, he marked with a scarlet red seal, hence the Aka in his name. Such a distinguished writer was he, and yet one of the poems he had submitted the previous year was found to be plagiarized. Akihito was exiled for his crimes, and only 4 of the 5 Kasen remained.
Sumizome went over Akihito's poems and noticed that the plagiarized poem lacked his seal. She immersed his poetry in a stream nearby, and only on the plagiarized poem did the ink run. Aoi no Okina passed by and witnessed Sumizome's doing, which he then recorded in a poem. Thus transpired the events of Suiko's poetry submission, and this is where the story comes to an end.
Since we completed the story of the 5 Kasen. One of the 5 Kasen is called Kuranushi, right? It's just that... How could the story of the 5 Kasen finish?
Oh! Have you...
Huh? Not noticed what? This is...
What he means is that the story of Kuranushi was already...
Huh? Really?
That's right. The key lies in the poem that Aoi no Okina wrote after seeing Sumi's... An average person could never understand the scene of a young girl washing Aka. Even Aoi no Okina couldn't figure out the meaning behind Sumizome's actions. However, for the perpetrator who framed Akihito, he was worried that if this poem was seen by the shogun, then the shogun could discover the truth. So in desperation, he threatened Aoi no Okina to...
Which means the one who threatened Aoi no Okina is the same person that framed Akihito. What? Kuranushi?
That's right. Though there are only 4 poems, they still since the shogun mentioned in the poems is certainly not the one of the 5 Kasen. The only character left is...
Oh, okay.
However, this also brings some... The story of the 5 Kasen has more or less reflected everything that's been happening, which begs the question, is there a
Kuranushi?
Speaking of which, I wonder if our dear Kazuha...
Oh, right! Kazuha! He's been pretty quiet. Hey, Kazuha! Are you okay? You've been standing.
Apologies for making a wild assumption, but
Yes. A few things did come to mind, actually. I don't mind sharing the stories, but I'd prefer not.
Hey! We're all friends here, Kazuha.
Kaidehara, please forgive my assumption, but perhaps you were thinking of the...
The Raiden Gokuden? What's that?
It appears that Miss Kamisato and I were thinking of the same, but it also has much to do with the Yashiro Commission. It would be improper to speak of it here.
It's fine. Those of us here are all trustworthy, so... However, this matter is somewhat complicated and may be difficult to explain. As you all know, the Yashiro Commission's primary purpose is managing ceremonial and cultural... The Raiden Gokuden were once the top 5 schools of the forging art in Inazuma. Although these families were swordsmiths by craft, unfortunately, of the 5, only the Amenoma art still maintains its artisan lineage. The descendants of the Ishin art are none other than the Kaidehara.
Whoa! We knew Kazuha came from a noble family, but we had no idea about...
Yes, but that's all part of the past now. The Ishin art was lost. My grandfather was dissatisfied with my great-grandfather's lack of effort. When he was young, my grandfather and in my generation, our last remaining family property was lost.
I heard my elder brother mention that the decline of the Raiden Gokuden happened very rapidly. In the span of a few decades, later, there was speculation that all of these misfortunes stemmed from some background machinations. However, since not every family of the Raiden Gokuden came to ruin, such explanations were treated as nothing.
Indeed. I've also believed such ideas were just theory. However, I know that a major incident happened to Not only did it affect the Kaedehara clan, but it nearly jeopardized the After reading the story of the 5 Kasen, I can't help but feel...
What exactly happened to your great-grandfather?
I still can't say. I need to speak with someone to verify the details. I will tell you everything I know then.